Welcome back to the podcast. I have got a special guest here with me today, Lissa Figgins. She is the Untimed Management Strategist and host of the Redeem Her Time podcast, and she is on a mission to shift the way go-getter Christian women, business owners approach time so that they can finally stop chasing the clock and their to-do list and increase the ROI on their time. And after 25 years of leading, teaching, and coaching Christian women, Lissa has discovered why women feel like there's never enough time, even after organizing their tasks and time blocking their day. And so today we're going to talk about time and why the problem is not a disordered calendar, but a disordered heart. So Lissa, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Yes, Jessica, this is going to be a great time together, pun intended.
I love that. Pun definitely intended. So we actually recorded this episode about a month ago. And I just have to say this before we even jump into this conversation, because I had audio issues on my end. So we're re-recording, but we know God is going to bring something really great to this conversation today. But there was one thing that you said to me in the last recording that has stuck with me. And I've been telling everybody is that, okay, how does it go? Don't look at the time clock and say, what time is it? But ask yourself, what time is it for? And I gotta tell you, I just have to share with you that has like drastically shifted the way I see my time just in this short, like, what was it, 3 weeks ago, I think that we first recorded that episode. And so now I'm able to, I look at that clock and instead of feeling behind or checking the to-do list and all the things, I'm like, okay, what is it time for right now? And sometimes I even have to shift, maybe what is on like the calendar or the time block or whatever, but it just helps my days go so much smoother. So remember this, what is it time for versus what time is it?
Okay, Jessica, here's what I just want to say. Look at how that one simple shift has already had this ripple effect in the way that you're approaching time and the way you're using it. And that's really my message, is that it's these little shifts that we need to make around how we're viewing our time, which will then lead to how we're using our time. But I'm here to say they're simple, but they're not easy, because they go against the grain. They go against the way that we are naturally like wired, just I think as women who are always doing, as business owners who are go-getters and trying to make stuff happen. And just even as people living in a really busy and distracting world that tells us, you just always have to keep going. And if you don't, you are going to be behind and you're going to be always trying to catch up. And that's just how life is. And I'm here to say it's not. And that's not what God has intended for us with our time.
Yes. I love that. Yeah. I just had to share that in the beginning. The one little nugget. Everybody, if you don't walk away with anything else, walk away with
you guys log off now because you don't want to hear anymore. At least, what is it time for?
What is it time for? It has been so helpful. So, okay, Lissa, you are a podcast host of Redeem Her Time podcast. You call yourself the Untimed Management Coach. So tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do and who you serve.
Yeah, well, this is so fun. And before I forget, I actually have a screensaver I'm going to need to make sure you get. It has "What is it time for" on here, because I believe that our phones are probably the number one place we need to ask this question. Let's be honest, ladies. How often is it really time to pick that thing up and start scrolling? Not most of the time, right? So anyway, I have that free inside my community. Okay, so I'm Lissa Figgins. It's Melissa without the M-E, because it's not about me. Yeah, I'm an empty nest mom. I live in the Midwest. We live on some acreage called the Figgy Farm. No, we don't have animals. We still call it the Figgy Farm. We grow trees and other random things. Lots of piles of rock. I feel like we grow that. But I'm an empty nest mom. So I've got 3 kids that are out of the house and on opposite coasts. So I'm kind of in the middle. I don't know why they call this the Midwest. It's not really the middle, but anyway. I'm here to tell all those young moms out there who have kids at home and you think that you're going to have more time when the kids grow up, when they go to school, when they start driving, when they go to college, when they move out. It's not true. You will not have any more time. Number one, we all get 24 hours a day. That's not going to change because your kids are home or not. But even though your role as taxi mom or, cheerleader or room mom or things like that may not be the same, over time, we as women tend to take on more things, right? So all that to say, yes, I still, even though my house is empty except for my hubby and 2 dogs, Life is still really full, and I have to be really intentional around my time because there's always someone or something that needs me or that needs to be done, right? So, I am really here to help women flip time management on its head because I think we've been fed the lie, and I bought it hook, line, and sinker, that things will just get better if I could just get better at managing my time, right? How many times have we said that? I just need to be better at managing my time. And so what do? We line up the time blocks, we line up the task lists, we line up the timekeepers, and we've got rings, dings, and pings on our phone reminding us what to do all day long. And we still can't keep things under control. And so I'm sure we'll get into this, what it really means to manage something. Number one, I don't think it's possible. And number two, I don't think it's what we're called to. I don't think it's the purpose God gave us. So because of my own story, I'm on a mission to help women ditch time management and have a whole different way of approaching time. And I especially have a heart for women who are building a business because you have a vested interest for why you want to see an ROI in your time. Now, everybody technically should be caring about the output, right? Like, what is my time leading towards, right? Because where you are is the consequence, good, bad, or indifferent, of how you've used time up till now. So look at your health. Where you are in your health is because of how you've invested time or not invested time up till now. Where you are in a relationship, where you are in your finances, where you are in fill in the blank, your business, whatever, right? But that's really good news because that means where you will also be the consequence, good, bad, or indifferent, of how you're going to address and use time up after this. So I love having conversations around this because time literally touches every single person on the planet. If you don't choose to fill it, then someone or something else will choose to fill it for you. And it is our most precious resource. And we say time is precious, but we don't act like it. So I'm here to really wake women up, and I'm not afraid to be bold and tell you what you need to hear because it's going to make a difference. And you're going to thank me later.
I love that. What do you think about budgeting? You budget so that you tell your money where to go, not it just disappearing. And it's really the same concept, like when you're managing, stewarding your time well, and you're taking control of your time instead of it just flying away. I love what you said about how we say time is precious, but we don't act like it. And gosh, that is so true. Time is precious, time is fleeting, it is going by so fast. And yet we get sucked up in these holes and busyness and all these things going on, and we're just letting it slip through our fingers.
Or we're giving it away to a lot of lesser things, really is more of what I think the problem is. It's because, we're not paying attention. I think our time is the only resource we have that we're not paying attention to the balance.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you literally had a stack of money in front of you, you would be thinking about where your money was going as you handed it out to each person that got $1 or $10 or $100, right? And you would see that pile dwindling, and you might be a little more cautious on what you were giving that money to. But time is not tangible, and that's what makes this so challenging. Mm-hmm. It's the elephant in the room. It's the thing that women business owners tell me is their number one problem is their time. And guaranteed, if they don't say time is number one, I can connect whatever they said their number one problem was to their time, right? Even if they think I don't have enough leads, I don't have a clear brand, guess what? It all boils down to time. So, and so if and until we address this area, things aren't going to change in all these other areas. Because this is the context in which we have to put time and attention into these things that God has given us to build out.
Yeah. So what are some misconceptions that people believe about time that as a Christian woman, as a steward of our time, that is false?
Yeah. Number one thing is that I don't have time. I think women are walking around, whether we say it out loud or not, and we're like, I don't have time, or some version of it, like, if only I had time, when I have time, I wish I had time. After the holidays, I'll have time, fill in the blank. They're all versions of us looking at some lack that we think that we have. And guaranteed, if that's what we're saying to ourselves, whether it's out loud or not, those thoughts are on repeat. They're leading to how we're feeling about our time, which is just going to be anxiety, stress, overwhelm, burnout, behind, right? Fill in the blank, which is going to lead to what we do, which is either Haagen-Dazs or hamster wheel, right? Either I'm forget it all. Why bother? I'm just going to go binge Haagen-Dazs and Netflix, or I'm getting on that hamster wheel and I'm going to keep going. If I go faster and faster. Eventually I'm going to catch up with whatever this arbitrary, thing of time is that we think that we should have.
Yeah.
And so I think that is the number one misconception, wrong belief, whatever you want to call it. And the enemy would love to keep us busy and distracted, right? Like read the Screw Tape Letters. One of the little, pieces of advice that the senior demon gives to his protege is just keep him busy. Then he's of no threat to us and no use to the kingdom, right? And like, I think I look at John 10:10 and Jesus said, I came to give you life and life to the full. That is not the same thing as a life that is too full.
Yeah.
And right in that verse, he says, but the enemy, he comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And do you know what our number one commodity is right now? What all of these companies are spending billions of dollars to get from you? Your time and attention. There are big marketing budgets and teams that are working overtime to get your time and attention because they know if I get your time and attention, then I can get your money, right? Because you can find what people love if you follow the money trail and the minutes trail, right? So you can tell me something is important, right? Like my health, right? Oh, Lissa, my health is so important. Okay, let me see your calendar and let me see your bank account. And that will show evidence of is it or not? And the same is true in our business and relationships and our faith walk and every other area. So that first one is, that there's not time. I think the second one is that I have to be better at managing it. Who hasn't said that, right?
I've said it, yeah.
But I told you, me too. And here's part of my story is that I thought I was really good at time management. And yet I was never able to keep up. There was always more to do. And I was literally starting to shut down. Like Lissa was physically in body in the room, but her brain, like, I don't even know where I was because I couldn't keep myself present to what was in front of me because I was thinking about the shoulda, woulda, couldas of what the past or the, I gotta do's of the future that I was never really in the moment of where I was. And so I thought if I can just keep everything organized, then it's going to fix all my problems. But actually, it didn't. It just masked them. And in my story, and this would be a great place to kind of share my story, I started I felt the guilt, right? Like, oh, I should be better. I should be better about these things. I should be more organized. I should be a better mom or wife or a business owner and all those things. Ignored that, of course, because I'm just doing my best, right? Just going to push through. It'll be fine. It's for a season. Then I started ignoring the signs my body was showing me. Like the pit in my stomach that just was always this like anxiety, right? That my shoulders were always like holding so much stress. And then I eventually felt a ball in my throat. So of course I ignored it because who has time to deal with that? Didn't go away. So I'm like, okay, maybe I should slow down my eating. Because, I'm kind of a busy, fast-paced girl. So I need to slow down my eating. I'm sure I'm not chewing however many times they tell you to. So tried doing that, tried drinking more water, didn't fix the thing. Ignored it again. After about a year, I realized it's been a year. I mean, think about how fast a year passes, right? It's really easy to put things off for a year or more. And so all of a sudden I thought, you know what? This thing might end up costing me more time, energy, stress, frustration if I don't get this checked out. So I promised my besties I would go to a doctor who tried medication, who tried some lifestyle things, and finally said, let's scope it. Yeah. So I remember going into his office for my follow-up appointments, and he sits me down. He's like, Lissa, there is no ball in your throat. I've put a camera down there. There's nothing. He goes, but you feel like there's a ball in your throat because you have hystericus globus. And I'm like, what in the world is hystericus globus? And of course, he, thinks he's all smart with his fancy words. And I'm like, okay, you got to tell me what this is. Never heard of it. He said, globus, globe, like a ball. You have this sensation of a ball in your throat. And then he goes, hystericus. And he literally starts spinning his finger next to his head like I'm crazy. And he thought it would make me feel better to say, that's where they get the word hysterectomy from because they thought women were going crazy in midlife. I'm like, well, gee, thanks. So I'm crazy. Okay. What are we going to do about that? He's like, well, I'm happy to prescribe you a pill. Now, I am not against mental health medication because I know lots of people who it is very effective for, but I knew in that moment it was not going to fix my problem. Because I had all, I had all the organization, I had all the time management, but I was always behind and always chasing. My time wasn't enough. I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't enough. I call it my not enoughness, right? Yeah. And so I kindly said, no, thank you. I don't want a pill. And I said, okay, Lord, what's the fix? because I want to get to the root of this, not just like put a band-aid, and then keep pushing like Lissa typically would. So it was over the next couple of weeks that he started to unhurry my heart, and he started to show me that my busyness was not a disordered calendar, it was a disordered heart.
Mm.
My heart was chasing after all these lesser things, right? We just talked about that. We give our time away to all these lesser things because I was trying to find my value in them, right? My value in being productive and my value in being like the person everybody needed and the value in whatever, right? And yet he was like, do you trust me? And do you trust that I've called you for a purpose, which is why I love that you talk about the purposeful brand.
Mm-hmm.
And do you trust that there is a purpose behind the time that I've given you? And so I wish I could say like everything changed in an instant when I was in the doctor's office. It didn't, but it changed in that moment. And it was this like slow unwind. And still sometimes I get keyed up again and I got to like bring it back down. But now I have tools like what you shared, right? The what is it time for? And I've really come to see my time as a gift and not something I'm called to manage, but something I'm called to steward.
Yeah.
So here's that second thing that I was kind of alluding to, that the wrong belief we have is that I need to manage my time. To manage literally means to exert control over and to keep contained. It's like you're trying to like push things down in a box and keep it from popping up, right? And so I call it like whack-a-mole. You're playing all day long and you're never going to win. Because just when you get everything lined up, what happens? The kids, the husband, the dog, the coffee, the reel, the email, the ring ding ping, whatever, right? Like it is a constant like trying to keep things back, get things back under control, right? And that's not where like the more that I talk to women after I started slowing things down and I ask them, how's life lately? Do you know what answer I hear most often?
Oh, just busy.
Yes, the B word. Ding, 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 ding. Some form. Oh, busy, busy, staying busy, always busy. And that's like this smile plastered on our face, like it's this badge of honor, and this is what we're called to.
Yeah.
I'm like, is this what God gave us life for? To just be busy and let time just zoop, zoop, zoop? No.
Yeah.
And so I go to scripture, and people are always like, Lissa, you bring so much scripture into how you talk about time. Like they're like, I've never heard a time person talk about like you do. So I go to Matthew 25, where there's the parable of the talents. I actually think it should be called the parable of the servants because it's really about the servants and what they did, not how much they had. Okay, but anyway, nobody asked me when they were putting the chapter titles in the Bible. So the one guy who got one talent, he tried to manage it. He tried to keep it contained and under control by burying it in the ground, right? That was a fear response. In fact, he even said that to the master when the master comes back. He's like, I was afraid, right? And this is why I did this. And this is what we do with time. We're afraid it's going to get away from us. We're afraid we're not going to have enough. We're afraid somebody's going to steal it from us. We're afraid we're going to wake up one day and who knows what. And so we try to contain it, right? Now, the other two guys, they were given 2 and 5 talents, and they didn't go bury it in the ground. We don't actually know what they did, but we see the results, right? They came back with double what he gave them. Yeah. So could you imagine if you took your bank account right now and you gave it over to somebody and said, here, take care of this while I'm on my trip, and you came back and it was double? What did that person have to do? They had to take what had been entrusted to them and they had to invest it on your behalf in order to increase your assets. That is the definition of stewardship. And I believe that's what we're called to with our time, right? God could have whisked us up to heaven the minute he saved us and said, let's get on with eternity because that's what the party's going to be all about anyway.
Yep.
But he didn't. We have this like already not yet time that we're still here on earth, like it or not, in a broken world, right? And where things are hard and there's evil and there's problems and there's health issues and stuff like that. And so how do we view our time? Are we looking at it like the rest of the world? Like it's this limited resource I have to chase because it's all on me to keep under control? Mm-hmm. Or am I able to be that steward with my hands open and receive this abundant gift from God every day? 24 hours today, 24 hours tomorrow, 24 hours the next day until Jesus comes back, right? And understand it's not about my comfort zone. It's about his kingdom. And I get to like invest this in the things that I'm called to in this here and now, right? In the business he's called me to, in the family he's called me to, in the ministry he's called me to, like in these things that in some ways it relieves the weight and burden of responsibility. And yet it also kind of gives a little sense of responsibility of like, wow, he's entrusted this to me. Yeah. Like I want to be well done, good and faithful servant. Absolutely. Like when it all comes down to it. And I think everybody would say that, right? I don't want to have regrets. We don't want to get to our deathbed and be like, oh, I wish I would have. And so, yeah, how do we approach time as stewards rather than managers of it? Because there's a big difference.
Absolutely. when we talk about being stewards, that hits close to home for me. I talk about being a steward of the gifts, your callings. Like we talk about this a lot on the podcast. So the listeners are not new to being a steward of the things that the Lord has given you. And it's such, when you say like, oh, what's the one thing that you ask women? Oh, I'm busy. I'm busy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm busy. And we've just grown in this society where, like you said, it is a badge of honor. And I think we're finally, I don't know if you're seeing it, the shift right now, but there seems to be a shift that's going on, which I believe that it is led by the Lord, in people taking a step back from that busyness and saying, hold on, this is not a badge of honor. This is actually not the way we're supposed to live.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
see a lot of people like, okay, it is time to slow down, and take control. Obviously, we don't control everything, but
Sure.
kind of take more control over how we are stewarding our time and things like that. And so I see a lot of women, I talk to women, and they have a hard time with really slowing down, just like what you
Mm,
experience constantly go, go, go. And that led to physically manifesting symptoms and feelings and stress and things like that in your
mm,
body. And so, does it all stem from heart posture of
mm.
that stewardship and where we are showing that gratefulness and honor to the things that we've been entrusted with? Is it start there with the heart posture of being able to steward versus manage our time and get out of that busyness, be more
Yeah.
intentional with our time?
I would say this. Number one, is managing your time working for you? And
Mm,
does it keep things in the right place all the time? No, 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 right? It's like the closet you clean out that, like, for a couple of days, it looks really great. And then stuff gets start piled back in there again. And then it's a mess again. And then you're like, oh, I got to clean out that closet. It's just like I said, it's this constant game of like whack-a-mole and constantly coming back and okay, getting things back under control and all that. Best example of what the solution is, let's look at Jesus.
mm-hmm.
He only lived on earth for 33 years. He only had 3 years of ministry. Like 30 years of his life was, we don't even know, right? And nobody knew who he was except his mom. And so, like, that, like, to save the world, 3 years, really, that is not enough time, right? But look at him, right? And I talk with my CEOs about this. Like, Jesus was never hurried,
Mm-hmm.
but his life was full.
Yeah.
It was full of opportunities. It was full of conversations. It was full of things. But what does he do? Many times I read in scripture how Jesus got away by himself
Mm-hmm.
to be with the Father, to really get clarity on what his mission was and what he was called to. And even that one time when his disciples came to find him and are like, hey, Jesus, like everybody wants you and needs you. He wasn't like, okay, well, let's go see what they want. He already knew my mission today isn't even in this town where we are right now. It's in this place. So we're going over there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I just go, okay, how can we live like Jesus? Because he invites us. I mean, hello, Matthew 11:28 through 30. Come to me, all of you who are stressed out, worn out, burned out, is the way the message says it,
Yes.
right? Like, come to me. Let me show you how to do life. Let me show you how to work. Let me show you how to carry life. And you're going to find rest for your soul.
Mm-hmm.
Not just rest like I got a pillow and I got to take a nap, or I got a little self-care and I got a, spa day or something like
No.
that. Like rest for your soul where you're not striving anymore, right? And think about Sermon on the Mount. He's like, don't worry about tomorrow. Don't run after all these things, what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, what you're going to wear, right? What do we do as business owners? We worry about what am I going to say? Who am I going to talk to? And how are they going to respond, right? And so we should not be running around worried about those things like the world who doesn't know him. Like we should be, what does he say? Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom. Seek first me, and
Yes.
all these things will be added to you because your heavenly Father already knows you need them. And here's where, yes, so all of that come back to it, right? Like it is a hard thing. Do I trust that the creator of the world, the one who exists beyond time and will exist beyond time on the other end of eternity, knows what I need and has given me more than enough for what he's called me
Yes.
to? Or am I like the Israelites who are out in the wilderness complaining about the manna because it's not enough and they have more over in that country and I wish I had this and da 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 and I'm going to try and make this work. You told me I can't make 2 days worth. Well, let me show you. We do the same thing with our time.
Yes.
24 hours is not enough. It's not enough. She's got more than I do. I don't have enough time. That is not
Mm-hmm.
true. Not true. So yes, it all comes down to the heart posture first, which is why I think most of us have struggled with time most of our life because we
Yeah.
never get down to that level. It all stays up in the head,
Hmm.
right? So that's what we're doing. I'm helping women do the work that most people don't and won't, and that is to pause and actually think deeply about your time and the purpose behind it, the bigger purpose behind it,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And intentionality. It's the word,
Yeah,
not control,
yeah,
intentionality.
right. Yeah. Well, there is a responsibility in it. And it's like this interesting
Absolutely.
combination between
Yeah.
God's divine sovereignty and man's like individual responsibility. Like, I don't understand how it goes together. It is not 50-50. It's not 80-20. It's not 90-10. I don't even think you can put a number on it. It's way more God than it is me. And yet,
Sure.
like, I can't just sit in the couch and be like, well, let go and let God see what he's going to
Mhm.
do. Like, like legit, if I want to grow a business, I have to be spending time doing certain things, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, but it is going to be this posture of it's a gift. It's been entrusted
Mhm.
to me. It's got a purpose beyond me. How am I called to invest it? An investment will bring a return on investment, an ROI. That's different than spending and wasting.
Yes, I love that. Absolutely. Um, so Lissa, I want to talk a little bit about your planner that you recently launched. And I've said this many times. I'm notorious for buying planners, being so excited and filling them out, and then they just sit on the shelf. And then I never touch it again. But you have such a unique approach to time and stewardship, and from a biblical lens, which I believe is just so valuable. Um, but I want to hear more about this planner and how it helps your CEOs steward their time better.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I love that you talked about like buying planners, then they collect dust because I think that's what often happens
Yeah.
because we just get so overwhelmed. Or like somebody told me the other day, she's like, Lissa, everything's on my Google Calendar because I'm just on the go all the time. And I was like, okay, but does it help you think about your time? Can you really see how your time is
Mhm.
flowing and if you have margin or don't, and kind of like the bigger chunks of time versus just the little tiny tasks and appointments that are filling your calendar?
Yeah.
Where's the white space? Where's the focus blocks? Where's the intention? Where's the like, let me leave room for God's spirit and things like that? So there's something about, I don't care how digital we get, there's something about a paper product where you are hand to paper writing what matters to you. And there are actually scientific studies that when you are writing with your own handwriting, it is connecting your hand to your head to your heart.
Yes.
And it's just really interesting, like how that happens. Now, I still say, yes, you probably need a digital calendar because if you're like Jessica and I, you've got clients or you've got, people that you're meeting with or events and things like that that other people need to have access to. And so that goes on there. You may have a family you have to share some stuff with, but that's different than thinking about the purpose behind your time. And
Hmm.
that's what the Redeem Her Time Planner is really about, is slowing you down to the presence of your time and the purpose of the time. To answer the question you started this whole thing with, what is it time for?
Hmm.
Right? Because if I'm going off a Google Calendar, I'm just letting it tell me what
Yes.
time it is and what I should be doing. That is way different than you making a CEO decision. Now, we haven't said this yet. I have redefined CEO as a Christ empowered operator, right? You are a Christ empowered operator of your God given life, of your God given business, right? Which I know you talk about that. And as such, I don't make decisions on my own, right? So I have to stop and think about, okay, why has the chairman of the board, aka God, given me this time and given me this mission? And how am I to steward this today or this week or this month or this year? So it's this like the James 4, right? It says, who are you to say I'm going to go to this and this city and do this and build a business and whatever? He's like, you don't even know what tomorrow holds. You're like a mist. But then he doesn't say, okay, stop planning. He says,
Hmm.
do say, I'm going to do this and this and this if the Lord wills. Right.
Hmm.
And so I think we can over Christianize this and be like, well, it says not to plan because, if I'm planning, I'm not letting God lead. Hello. Right. Because if you're not planning, that is your
Yes.
plan and that's not going to go very well. So anyway, so the planner is really meant to slow you down to the presence and purpose of your time and to get you thinking about the results, the fruit,
Mhm.
the ROI of your time, right? Because so many of us are like, well, my business isn't where I want it to be. I had this conversation with a new CEO yesterday. I said, and we were talking about her business results. She hasn't had new clients come in from October through December. And I
Mhm.
said, okay, well, because your time is direct, your ROI now is connected to what you were doing about 90 days ago. how consistently were you giving time in July and August? You know what? She was like, I wasn't.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if you made a CEO decision not to because you were on vacation or you were doing stuff with your kids, like, great, but don't expect a harvest 90 days later, right? So this planner is helping you like think about what's in the moment, but also, yes, I am thinking about what's coming next. And it comes with a digital course that's worth like $9.97. Had to put a number on it. I don't even know how to put a number on it because it does shift the heart. You can't put a price tag on that, but it helps change the way you look at time. And women, I mean, this thing just launched in November, and women already are like, oh my goodness, like you. It's not like the planners at Target. It's not like the other ones that I just jump right into the month, start filling up the boxes, because we get into your heart first. We rightly order that. Then we look at the bigger picture of what God's calling you to. And then I teach you a whole different way of approaching planning for your months and your weeks and your seasons and your year. And there are intentional like pausing moments in here. I call them Selah. Selah in scripture means like pause and take it in, pause and ponder, where I give you questions to reflect on, so that way you're thinking before you just jump into the next thing that was demanding your attention. And all along you're collecting what I call a CEO praise report. And I keep prompting, did you add this week to the CEO praise report? And then did you add this month to the CEO praise report at the end? So that it kind of almost becomes like a time capsule.
Yeah.
Right. Which is perfect. Right. Like I want you to like 12 months from now and somebody's like, oh my gosh, where'd the time go? I don't even know what happened. And you'd be like, I know exactly what happened. I know exactly where my time went because God and I were doing this together.
Yes.
Right. Like I call it the with God framework. And that's what I teach inside here is just how do you partner with God and bring him into everything you do and steward this resource he's given you to build his kingdom. Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, is this planner, is it like available for purchase at all times, or does it go through certain launches?
It is available all the time. And I made it undated so that somebody could find it, beginning of a year, great. But guess what? You could find it in March or June or August or November. That gets to be day one where you're like, I am shifting how I approach time. Enough of this managing of it. I'm doing something different. And then that becomes your day one. Amazing. Right? Don't let a clock or calendar and what it says tell you when it's time to do something like this. So all that to say, yeah, wide open.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I definitely have to check out that planner. And I think it's so wonderful that you not just gave them the tool, but you're also teaching them how to use it.
And how to think different. Like that's what I want to teach you, right? Because I can't always be sitting right next to you to say, is that a good use of time or not? I hope you hear my head in your voice or that voice in your head going, you have time and what is it time for? But yeah, I want to teach you to think strategically, right? To like think like a CEO of your life and your business and see the importance of your time and then make strategic decisions. And so everything from Redeemer Time is built on Ephesians 5:15-16, which says, look carefully how you live. There's intention right there. Did you hear that? Right? No blinders on, or I don't even know what's going on. I'm just rushing through, head down. Not as unwise, but as wise. So we have a choice. I can go one direction or the other, and it's going to take me in a very different direction. Go through all of Proverbs and look at the difference between the wise and the fool, right? Yeah. And then the next part says redeeming the time. And some versions say like making the best use of the time or making the most of the opportunities because the days are evil. These are difficult days. We've got a lot of things pulling on our time and attention, right, that are not of the Lord, or that just are simply distractions. They're not always bad things, but squirrel, hello, shiny object syndrome, anyone out there, right? Like, and so, yeah, it's like, this is what we're called to. Paying attention by looking carefully, making wise choices, and saying, okay, I've been given this opportunity. I have this time in front of me. How am I intentionally investing it? Yeah, that's going to go build something beyond what's just the here and now.
This is wonderful. I love this. Now, Lissa, I know that everyone is going to absolutely love you and they're going to want to hear more from you. And so definitely have to go check out your podcast, the Redeem Her Time podcast. But where else can they find you?
Yeah, well, I love this question. I love hanging out in the podcast. And actually, my second favorite place to hang out on is the Redeem Her Time community, which I link from the podcast. It's where we take conversations off the podcast. I bring my guests in there as well, so we can actually implement, right? The worst thing you could do is have just listened to this conversation that Jessica and I had, and then just keep doing the same thing you're doing. You know what they say, when you keep doing the same thing and expecting different results, what they call that? Insanity. Right? Yeah, like exactly. Who wants 2025 to feel insane or crazy, right? Like So anyway, I love hanging out inside my community because I intentionally built it off of social so that, okay, this is what happens. A couple things happens. Number one, you have all of the greatest intentions to go check that Facebook group that you really know, like there's good stuff in there. But number one, you get lost in the fact that you're a member of like 250 Facebook groups, when you go in there. And then you're trying to scroll down and find it. And then you end up on a rabbit trail to a bunch of other things and never even get there, right? Or you're watching cat videos and it's like this black hole. So I built mine off of that so that you're like, I want to go work on my time. I know exactly where to go. Boom, right? Come in, get value, give value, get out. And I also have a business directory in there where this is my other pet peeve about Facebook groups. You're not allowed to promote yourself unless it's that one day and that one post in that one comment section. Girl, if God called you to business, you should be talking about it. And I don't care what day of the week it is. So come in my community. You can post in my business directory any day of the week you want to. You can post in there every day of the week if you want to. Like, we should be shining our light and making a difference in the lives of people, right? If not, why are we in business? So anyway, that's my other place to hang out is the Redeem Her Time community. You can directly go there, redeemhertime.com/community. Or like I said, I always link to it from the podcast.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for this conversation, Lissa. I know there's just so many nuggets in here, and thank you for helping us shift the way we view our time into stewarding our time more versus managing it. I think that's going to just have such an impact in the lives of the ladies that are listening to this. So thank you again for joining me, and it was just so great chatting with you.
Thanks, Jessica. I really appreciate it. And if you guys didn't hear anything else, and you heard that question in the beginning, the last thing I want you to hear is this very, very simple phrase. You have time. Let that play on repeat and see what a difference that makes.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.